Let's jump to the resource pack directory, and we'll close up the Symfony folder here. And what we're going to do at this point is go ahead and add our own subscriber and see how this works. So we'll copy step 17, blind date subscriber.php, adding a subscriber class, and we'll jump over to our module folder, and we'll open up the source folder and paste it in there, and rename it blind date subscriber.php. Okay, let's open this up. So what I did to generate this file is I copied an existing subscriber class from Drupal core, and then I went through and edited anything that seemed like it might be tied in with that original implementation and replaced out the namespace with blind date and so on. So let's go through this line by line. First, we have the namespace. Of course, we're always going to use our module plus Drupal for the namespace. These use statements were just copied over. And PHP Storm does something nice where if these classes aren't actually used in the rest of the file, they'll be grayed out so we know that we can remove the alias. We then create our class. We're going to call it blind date subscriber. It's going to implement event subscriber interface, just like we saw in access route subscriber. And really the first part here, I'm going to scroll down, is using a get subscribed events in order to register this with particular events. In this case, what we're doing is tapping into the response event. Now, if you want to know what this is, what we can do is just do a control click on response here. We have a couple options here because we have two versions of this file, one in our Symfony 2 folder and one in Drupal core. So we're going to go to the Drupal core version, although they should both be identical. And here it is right here, and here's the description. The response event occurs once a response was created for replying to a request. This event allows you to modify or replace the response that will be replied. The event listener method receives a Symfony component HTTP kernel event filter response event instance. So this is very similar to what we were doing in the Symfony example, where we grabbed the response before it got sent to the browser and replaced out the status code with 404, for example, or replaced the output. We're actually going to do the same thing in our subscriber. So I'm going to jump back to blind date subscriber.php. So here's our event. We're registering it here in get subscribed events. And when this runs, the onResponse method inside of this class is going to run. So that's up here. So what we're going to do is grab the response object from the event object here by using the getResponse method. And then we're setting the content to something else. So we're basically overriding the response. So regardless of what the content is, now it's going to say blind date, get it? And then we're going to set the status code to 404. Now, how did I know that I could use the getResponse method here in order to grab the response object from the event? Well, what I did was just set a breakpoint inside of this method and then turn debugging on so I could see what this event object was. And then I took a look at what the methods were that were available. It looked like I could get the response object by using a property of the class, but typically if you find yourself accessing properties directly, you'll usually find that there's a getter that you can use that wraps around that property. So we can take a look at this breakpoint in just a second. But first of all, now that we've created our subscriber class, we need to go another step and register it as a service.